Hey, it's Kristen. It's Friday, so cheers to that. I was hoping to do this video a couple days ago and I got wound up doing laundry and I lost track of time. So I figured I would take a break from that laundry for a couple minutes and do another video about our step-by-step home buying guide that we started. I did a video probably a couple weeks ago. We talked about step number 1, which is meeting with your realtor and looking at the house and trying to get a good idea as to what you're looking for as far as the selling process. It can be a very stressful time. It's not something you do very often, and you're not really sure how the process goes. So we try to develop a whole guide as step-by-step leading you through the process. So if you are interested in the whole thing, please send me a message and I can send that to you, electronically, of course. But I thought we'd go through step-by-step and talk about each one in a little bit more detail. So step number 1 is have a meeting with your realtor, ideally at the house. Give a tour so she can see what the house is. So the second step would be she's going to take that information and try to come up with a good price to put the house on the market for. So that would be taking into account the specifics about the house, which is why that first meeting is so important, to show, new improvements that have been done or, anything specific to the house. And she's also going to look at the markets that are currently on the houses that are currently on the market, at houses that have sold, ideally within a recent time frame. But if you have a very unique house, sometimes we need to extend that out a little bit longer. She's going to look for houses that are very identical to the one that you're trying to sell. So like a 1-bedroom and a 1-bedroom, or a colonial and a colonial, or something like that. Just try to get as close to the same and kind of in the same neighborhood if possible, or at least in the same town. It's, of course, varies based on your house and what, exactly what we're trying to market to. Of course, that can be a little bit tricky. If you have a house that there's a lot of other houses that are similar and other houses that have sold recently, that might be a little bit easier. If the house that we're trying to sell is more unique, then sometimes that can be a little bit more difficult. But, of course, everybody does the best that they can, and they take into account the things that you show them at the house tour. So it's really important to come up with a solid price to list the house at, because of course you want people to be interested and schedule appointments and come to the open house to try to look at your house. But it's also important because after you have an accepted offer, if your buyers are going to get out a mortgage, then the mortgage company will hire an appraiser to come to the house, and they kind of do a similar assessment of the market and what sold. The bank wants to ensure that they're paying, they're lending out money for the appropriate amount for this house. So if the house was not to appraise at the agreed price, then there might have to be some negotiations to go on to get to a price that the bank will put up the mortgage for. If you have a cash buyer, maybe not so much of an issue, but nobody's going to want to pay for much more than what the house will appraise for. So after the realtor has come up with what she thinks is a good price, she will schedule another meeting with you and talk about the price. I think it's very important to have an open and honest conversation here, especially if the price that she's thinking is maybe not what you had in mind. I think if you have an open and honest conversation right then and there at that time and say, I was really hoping for X and you're bringing me Y, you can talk about the reasons behind that and say, if the house needed a new roof, well, the new roof costs X amount of dollars and you have to take into account for that, or something like that. I mean, there's reasons. And so I think to have a good, honest conversation with your realtor about why she's coming up with a certain price or why you think a different price would be better, it's I think the best to do that at that meeting and have that conversation rather than, not talking about it, but then eventually, needing to have the conversation anyway at some point, possibly. So that's step number 2, trying to find a price And then, we'll go through what happens after that in a little bit more detail in other videos coming forward. So again, Kristen, and I'm with Deb Plant in Hearth and Harbor Realty, and we would love to help you sell your home. So if you're interested, please send us a message, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks. Have a great weekend.